Now let's talk about the last attack, which is easy to avoid and predict, which is what I personally call the fire breath or fire path, but I personally suggest you to call it out as a fire, because otherwise it gets quite a bit long and your fans risk to die when you call it out. Meantime, well, how do you predict this attack? You'll see a flame on mouth of Mephistopheles, and that's how you see he's going to do this attack. While doing this attack, he will change position, he will go right in front of him, but he will not pass behind the map. He will just go through the map and release a fire while doing that. Well, the only way you can actually die for this attack is being right on the fire path when he's passing, because if you get on top of it when he has already passed, you will not die for it. And that's a huge advantage, because when he has passed, you can go all four on the talisman, because he still will have to wait a few seconds before he does another attack. Just make sure you're not in the middle of the map also for this one. Another attack that he has is what I called out of shortness medal. What he basically does during this attack is he punches the ground. He jumps and punches the ground, and well, it's quite easy to see that he's going to do this attack actually, but not to avoid. How do you see that? Firstly, you see that he's not around anymore, not around the map or on the edges of the map, and you see a big hole opening in the center of the map, and he will get there like immediately. So if you are in the middle of the map, you're screwed again. That's why I told you not to stay in the middle of the map. And how do you avoid it? There are two ways. First one, you need to hide behind the rocks, behind the pillars, but completely behind the pillars, and you'll have to pay attention to the skeletons who are going to try and kill you. And this is by far the easiest way to die here. Except for some other attacks, of course, like the fire tornado, but we'll talk about that later. And the other way to avoid it is by going to the little area where you stay during the special wave. Oh, and I also forgot to say that this is one of the most favorable situations to revive dead mates, because he will not attack you directly, and if you're fast enough you can just pick him up and go and hide behind the pillar. Now comes the hard part actually. The first hard attack to avoid, not to predict, is the asteroid. The asteroid is hard to avoid because you really don't know where he's going to throw it. But before we come to how to predict it, let's say how to call it out. I personally prefer to call it out as planet, because it's shorter than asteroid. When you say asteroid, the majority of the people in the team are already dead, you know. And also meteor, it's not the easiest or slightest to pronounce. So yeah, let's say we call it planet. How do you say it's going to throw you the asteroid? Well, he will blatantly throw you something. And how do you avoid it? The easiest way to avoid it, in my personal experience, is to go under Mephistopheles. Well, I honestly need to say that once I died out of fire when I went down under Mephistopheles while I was doing this attack, but it happened only once, and I think it was a glitch bug, and it has never happened again. The real secret is to go where there is no mate, because it's not going to shoot where there is no one actually. And don't go to the middle, because he can throw it right in the middle. Now let's come to the hardest attack to prevade, and one of the hardest to avoid, of course, as a consequence. The wall. I'm talking about the wall. Why is it hard to avoid? Because the gesture he does before doing the wall is like the same that he does while summoning the zombies, except for the final part, but you cannot just begin to avoid it when it comes to the final part, because you have really little time and it's not going to be enough. So you'll have to guess when he's going to do a wall and when he's going to summon zombies. So how can you tell? Well, what I've noticed, what I've seen, is that while raising his hands for summoning, you will already see the skeletons spawning on the ground from like firing holes. While if he's raising his head and you don't see any zombie on the ground, then that of course means that he is going to do a wall. That's the only difference. And sometimes while summoning with only one hand, he will change slope while he does the wall always vertically. And how do you avoid it? Just go and hide behind a pillar. Don't go in the little area where you stay during the special waves, because the water gets there too. And yeah, you can go behind the pillars, that's it. I'm adding this post-scriptum in the editing phase of this video. Well, I forgot to tell you two things. Another way you can tell he's not going to do a wall or he will not summon zombies is that when he summons zombies, he will raise his hands over his head, while doing the wall he will not. He will stop mid-air before doing like a clap with his hands. And also I forgot to tell you not to go to the wall, because you will get burned. And never stay still, just keep moving and moving and moving again. Also if you were sitting on the talisman before, because he's going to do attacks, like usually he will summon and then throw fireball, but you can also throw fireball and summon, that's it. So just never stay still. Now let's come to what is by far, in my opinion, the hardest attack to avoid, and there's some good reason why it is the hardest, because he will be able to do other attacks while doing this one. I am talking about the fire tornado. It's quite easy to understand when he's going to do that, because it does a gesture that you cannot confuse with other ones. It's like very characteristic. And now let's come to how to avoid it. Well, firstly, there is like no way but luck to avoid it when he's attacking you, because like if he does the fire tornado and then attacks you with a fireball, you're quite screwed. If you slide away, you'll die for the tornado, and if you stay still, you'll die for the fireballs. So it just comes to luck, actually. And anyway, I think the fire spreads like a 5-point star, which is a satanic symbol that I know, so it's like coherent with the context. But I have no evidence of it, and well, so that's just a supposition. And I think that, which is quite obvious actually, the fire doesn't spread randomly, it just follows a pattern. So I tried to write down it to paint it, and I pointed out with the crosses the positions where you should stay, because it gets quite easier for you to avoid the attack, to adjust according to where the fire moves. Yeah, just like based on experience. So just stay on those positions, look at where the fire goes and go to the opposite direction. And also I suggest you to use your Venom X to avoid the skeletons, just so you can focus only on the fire and on avoiding it. And it's not a good idea, man, to sit in the area where you sit during the special waves, actually. The hardest part of this Easter egg is like the part after you charge the 5th talisman, and I'm trying to do a live commentary, trying to commentate and explain you how we played, what we did. First thing you need to know is that here you'll get special enemies from all the previous movies, and also like mini bosses, except for the brute, luckily. But you'll get like the blue rhinos and the slasher. and like the clowns, the cryptids, the phantoms, which are the blue cryptids, and so on. And also the ninjas, which are the hardest to avoid actually. So what you should do here, first thing you need to know is that you should all be in different positions. Actually, it is the better thing you can do, because this way, if it does an attack, you will not massively die. Like, you will die 1, maximum 2, but not all of you. Also, the most important part here is using the Venomex and the cards you need. You'll call in like Explosive Touch, or even, look, I was lucky here, or even like the Twist of Fate card, because it's very helpful. And keep ready the Raisin Phoenix in case you all go down. You will be using your Venomex in order to like get your friends from the ground when they die, and yeah, for protecting from the special enemies, because it's never easy. This time, yeah, I risked because I had no clip, I think. Don't know why I did it. And yeah, just keep running around, and never ever stay in the middle of the map, because you'll die for sure. Look, this guy has just died for a wall, because of course you're not going to look at Mephistopheles. And what you have to do here is like shooting directly to him in order to raise all the talismans. And when you have raised all the talismans, you'll see a black circle on them, and then that means that you're ready to go there and press a square. When you press a square, all your enemies despawn, and you'll have to shoot all your ammo, all your clips inside on this bad guy. And what's important here is never lose focus. Never lose focus, otherwise you're quite screwed. Yeah. And if you follow all my previous tips, you shall be quite successful. And also, if you use Twist of Fate and or Explosive Touch, just make sure you get your indicator full again, in order to use Raisin Phoenix in case all your friends go down. I didn't have it because I was level 1. It was the first game I had with this account. It was a challenge. And I shall say thank you to my mates here for allowing me to be commentating this video. My mates were Tibectony84, Shoa DK, and Giola777. They are great guys. And yeah, thank you. And thank you for looking at this very huge big tutorial. And bye bye.